Recording?
Not yet.
Oh, man. Is it recording? Yeah. All right. What was that again? Alt. Let me put this up here. No. Minimize this. Thank you, God. One word at a time. That's what we're doing here. And we're going to start with. I still don't know where to start. But there was one thing that blew my mind here. It's a heavy thing. Lupe, and let me get it here. Is this it? Yeah, Lupe, and this is 3077 and 3076. 3077, 3076. Uh, it might be too heavy for us right now, but come on now. I know I had it here. 3077, 3076. Excuse me for this. That's not it. Uh-huh. Making a liar out of me now. I'm going to have to pull it up. I'm going to have to make a page here. I don't know what happened to it, but I had one here. Oh, there it is. I don't know how that came there. I must have closed it out by accident. And then when I tried to open it, this popped up. So that's good. 3077. Okay, let's do this here. This is Lupe. Sorrow, heaviness, grievous, sorrow, pain, grief. And it's in the Theologic Dictionary, volume 4, starting on page 313. And that's the feminine noun. The verb is lupeo, to be sorrowful, to grieve, to make sorry. So that's where we're going to start, whether I like it or not. And like I said, it was a heavy duty read, man. Lots of philosophy in here. And I did, if you have the book and you look at this volume 4, starting on page 315, you'll see usually there's a Greek word or two stuck together and you got to look it up. This is sentence after sentence after sentence of nothing but Greek. And I just spent most of the day uh, defining every single sentence here in English. So it would be easy to read. So this would be sorrow and repent, pain, to cause pain, to experience sorrow, to be sad. It's in the broader sense the experience of the natural impulse of both man and animals in the pursuit of hedone. And let me get this out of here. I'll open up another page. Hedone. Can do this without going crazy here. I'm gonna have to do this. Da, 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 da. Hedone. We know what hedone is. The hedonistic. We when we say hedon, we know what that means. But they didn't have the harshness of it that we. They called it pleasure, the pleasures and the joys of life. Hedone. Uh, but we really talk about a hedonistic lifestyle as someone that's way out there, you know. But it is way out there, but they're just doing the opposite of what the lupe is, and you'll see lupe and hedone together, juxtaposed with one another. And there's other words here. Since the natural impulse is the suke, and that's another word. It has to do with the soul or the psyche or the breath, and that's 5590 in the Greek. That's the suke, that's the life or the soul. All right, so you'll see these words a lot: the breath, the life, and suko is wax cold. But you get the idea. Suke and hedone, uh, part of that, and then lupe is a matter of the suke. We'll say these words, suke. So you know what I'm talking about: the soul, the life, the breath. Okay, and when I say hedone, you know I'm talking about the pleasure and the lust, stuff like that. And we might run into a few others. Oh, there we go. I got to do it this now. Let me close this. 2875 and 2870. We'll close that out for now. Hopefully I'll remember. But we're probably not going to get to it today anyway. So that's the suke. And this is, for the Greeks, the sphere of bodily vitality as well as the intellectual life. Lupe can mean physical pain as well as sorrow of spirit. And there's two that's just juxtaposed here. Panos, that's another one. Panos is 4192, and this is pain, 4192, and that's pain. Ponos, pain, great trouble, intense pain. And you got all these synonyms here. We go crazy looking at all of these. All right. We'll go crazy looking at all of these, but we're not going to do that right now. But I got them written down somewhere. So this is they gnawed their tongues for pain because of the pains. Be any more pain. So the former pains that pass away. So there's another one with having to do with the lupe, and this is something in the life, the sorrow in the life, and we get this lupe when we do too much hedone and too much of the other stuff, the suke and the hedone, and it brings the ponos, the pain, and the lupe. So, and it's a calming alternative. The opposite is hedone, though kara and good report and the well path also occur. So you have these words, kara, 5479. These all pop up. 5479, kara. That's great joy, exceeding great joy. All right. Kara, let me put it up here. Joy and gladness. And the other word here is a good report. I think it's 21. I can't read this. 2163. 63 is a good report. Yes, good report. Euphemos. So you got the you and the famous, fame, a well word. And just like, blasphemous is the bad fame. So it makes some room over here. You got these words. If not, you could look at the recording and get them. And that's, look, one time in the Bible, Philippians 4:8, euphemos. And the well path, I have no number for that. I couldn't find it. Eupathia. I'm just assuming that it means well path or well suffering. Patheo is like suffering, so it's like well suffering. So these sophists and the Stoics, they undertook a fundamental differentiation between the various terms for joy. But it is typical that there is no similar attempt in respect of those for sorrow. So you got let me put 2167, another word, 2167. And this is all under lupe. This is all under the sorrow. 2167 is euphrosune. Okay. Another U word. Euphrosune. Joy, gladness, cheer. 2167. There's two verses there. And then the other one is 5479. Just throwing these at you real quick. 5479, because we might run into them again. And if I say them, you know what I mean. Kara. We know what kara is, joy. Wishing somebody a good Godspeed. That's kara, charis. So there's joy, euphrosune. And exceeding great joy. That's kara. Okay. So physically, lupe can denote any pain, though especially that caused by hunger or thirst, by heat or cold, or by sickness. So this leads figuratively to the common use of the bitter along with it. And it's a word for bitter, 4089. 4089. See, those words are like opposites of the lupe, but this is a synonym for it. And this is bitter. This is the word pikros, bitter. So we'll see that in our readings here. And there's 2 verses there with bitter in it, along with it. And it is often characterized as Daknian and Degma. And this Daknian is tearing. That's 1144 and 1145. We looked at that a little bit last week. 1145, that's the one verse Jesus wept. That's weeping. Dakruo, and 1144 is 44. That's tears. Dakru. So you see that in there too. Dakru. Dakru. And Digma, D-A-G-M-A. I looked that up. I couldn't find it, but it actually means damn, D-A-M-N, damn. So spiritually, lupe is sorrow, pain, or anxiety at misfortune or death, or anger at annoyance or hurts, especially insults or outrages. So joy and sorrow in their alteration are a part of life. Lupe and hedone, so you got the 2 juxtaposed here, are intermingled not merely in the dramas of poets, but in the whole tragedy and comedy. So you can put those 2 words, like lupe is the tragedy, and hedone could be the comedy of life. So to live with neither joy nor sorrow is exactly like stone. And I just had to translate that whole sentence there into English, and that's basically what I got. It says, mete karante eti mete luponos is hosta lithos zoe. And that just means that neither joy nor sorrow is exactly like stone. Now that's the literal translation. I don't know exactly what a real translator would translate it to, but that's the way I got it. So you got to have one or the other. Actually, you need both to have a full life. Because without hedone, you don't know what sorrow is. Because we do the hedone, we get into the sorrow. And when you're sorrowful, it's always nice to know to have a little joy. Or so when I say hedone, I mean joy. So lupe and hedone, but it is understandable that there should be a desire to live without lupe. We would like to have a desire. We would like to live without lupe, without any sorrow. The man who lives without hedone and charis is you psokos nekros, which means breath dead. So if you have without joy or kairo or pleasure, you are a dead breath. That's how I translated it. But actually, it's just a dead person. So everyone seeks pleasure and flees from luprona, which is a sophron. Sorrow. I'm sorry. So everyone seeks pleasure but flees from sorrow. And this one is Zeus eating and drinking. Sorry, none him. That's the way I translated, but sorry, none him. But according to somebody, a life in mere self-forgetful pleasure would be the vegetating of an oyster, whatever that means. In fact, there is no hede without lupe. So there is no joy without regret, in other words. Sometimes they translate it lupe as regret, and sometimes it's sorrow, depending on the ending on the word. These 2 are strangely linked. So see if I can read this. Lupe kai ponoi. Sorrows and pain follow great regrets. So I'm translating the Greek that's on the page here. Sorrow and pains follow great regret. Indeed, all is done voluntarily out of great regret. And in life, everything is mixed regrets, great. And that's how I translated it, the Greek here. Mixed regrets, great. So great mixed regrets. Things which seem to be joyous, like marriage and the blessing of children, bring sorrow. We bring sorrow on ourselves or attracted to us by our deeds. The worst pain is that which we cause ourselves. And I like to say that, God loves us enough to let us do the stuff that brings us the pain and the sorrow. He loves us enough to beat us up too. So in carousing, especially hedone, are brief and lupe are many and far away. That's the way I translated this Greek saying here is hedone are brief and lupe are pole kai makre, many and far away. Hence, the advice of Solon is pleasure goes away, sorrow says. Grateful is he who not sad when he does not have, but happy when he has. That's how I translated this. I'm sure there's a better way to say it, but the literal translation, grateful is he who is not sad when he does not have, but happy when he has. So if you're in need and you're not sad, you're okay. Then he does not have, but is happy when he has. So when you have something, you're happy, and when you don't have something, you still should be happy. That's basically what that's saying. So he who goes beyond the mean is a fool, for he does not think of the days of lupe, which are still ahead, and realizes as those who tend to have fertile opinion but are still pitied, as those who, when inclined to a fertile opinion, do not regret it, but even endure it, even as they are subject to both roles and private states. That's how I translated that phrase there, and that took a while. Let me see. As those who, when inclined to a fertile opinion, do not regret it, but even endure it, even as they are subject to both roles and private states. I might have had something wrong in there. The word fertile, there was a couple of different words it could have been. Private states. I might have had that one wrong, but that's what popped up when I looked it up. So philosophy dealt with the problem of lupe only in treating of hedone. There can be no hedone without lupe. The understanding of lupe is not regarded as an independent task. Direct interest is always focused on hedone. Indeed, hedone itself, along with lupe, is part of the question of the agathon, which is the good. So it's all good. The hedone and the sorrow that comes from the hedone, it's all agathon. It's all good. So man is distinguished from beast only by the fact that, in addition to the sensuality of sorrow, is it sensual? Eistasis. I had sensuality of luperon, and that could be sorrow, and rest. He has the account. It says logos, but it could be he has the account to differentiate between good and evil. It says he has the logos to differentiate between good and evil. But sometimes it has a different word in there for logos, which we know what the logos is the word. But it also could be he has the account to differentiate between good and evil, right and wrong. So lupe and hedone belong to the lower part of the soul. And this is another translation here. Because it is sad and give at to this soul. That's the literal translation. Well, it could be something else. Because it is sad and give at to this soul is like a broad mass of people. The catalogodoxa, according to the glory, that's literally translated, the catalogon doxa must rule over it. To be sure, bios, which is life, without hedone and lupe, so life without joy and sorrow, is a little eretos bios. Arete is virtue. So life without joy and sorrow is as little a virtuous life. So it's not. As life in mere self-forgetful hedone for Plato. So hedone and lupe are the basic modes of awareness of existence, since they are the ways in which existence understands itself in terms of the world. So you need both. But the question then arises, what are true hedone? For Plato, it is clear that they can be only spiritual hedone, yet even here there are also true and false. For joy is a way of discovering the world. It thus involves an evaluation. Hence, there is possibility of error. So what is unpleasant and even unreal can be regarded as delightful, or joy may be alloyed, or joy may be alloyed because it conceals and forgets present pain. Pure joy and pure delight is joy in the pure forms of the beautiful and in the knowledge of the true. It is the joy of the pure perception which recognizes the dunamis, the power of the good, and the phusis, the nature of the beautiful. If the meaning of true joy is thus tracked back to discovery and contemplation of the good, the agathon, a characteristic limitation is set for the very first for the opposite emotion of sorrow, lupe. It is seen that in every sorrow there is raised the question of a reason d'etre, reason of existence. So, and they throw some Latin in here too, raison d'etre, which means reason for existence. So it's raised the question of its reason for existence, so that pain too unveils the world for being. On the other hand, it is not considered that pain is an interruption of the self-forgetfulness of being, summons this out of the world and back into itself, and to what? Isolation after that. Like I said, it's a heavy read, and there's a lot of good stuff in here. I can't read the whole thing, but I spent the time, and I actually translated every single word that I ran across, and sometimes it's just one or two words, but these were whole sentences, man, and I just had to get them. So this is good. Apostle, let me see. I can't read all of this. It's good stuff. If you get a chance to read it in the Theological Dictionary, the suffering of pleasure. Yeah. So when we get into the pleasure, that brings us to sorrow when we get into it too much, and we don't realize that it's going to hurt us. In Greek antiquity, there are at least the beginnings of a positive estimation of suffering. So we know that we need both. We need the suffering too, because this is a positive estimation of suffering, and that came along in Greek antiquity. The view that it can be meaningful in the form of sympathy is to be found in the words, and I translated this, and I don't want to read the whole thing here, but it's it doubles a woman great evil. I can't read the whole thing here. The Greek word certainly recognizes that suffering leads to knowledge. So pathemata, mathemata, right? Pathe is suffering and mathetes is learning. So pathemata and mathemata. So suffering has lessons, basically what that means. So this is true not only in the sense that the pathema, or the suffering of the one who suffers, can be instructive to others, but also in the sense that it can be instructive to themselves. Zeus brings it about that man learns from his suffering. Pathe mathos. And we know pathe is get a lesson. So you get a lesson from the suffering. Mathos is a lesson by means of, what's this? Lingering pain. Lingering pain. Mena. That was a rough one. Oh, menesis. Meneomai means remembering. So this is a remembering pain or a lingering pain. The torment of, they call it sorrowful remembrance. Euripides knows that the self-accusing pain of remorse, of which is said, affliction for the god, but still, what is it? Oh, affliction from the god, but still curable. That's what that means. So the decay, the trial, which inflicts pain but also leads to salvation, is compared by Plato to medicine. When he shows it that contrary to naive ideas, just just something something, I can't read this. DK didonai, and this word here, kolazeste, means going to hell. Just know that you are going to hell. That's what that's translated to. DK didonai and kolazete, something going to hell, is better than the unjust than to remain unpunished. How about that? Contrary to naive ideas, just something that you going to hell is better for the unjust than to remain unpunished, since by chastisement he becomes improve the soul. That's what that translates to. He becomes, so his soul gets better by chastisement. And we know that. The more we get beat, the better we're off. And like I said, this is a heavy read, but he is proved to suffering even when he learns. That's good. And there's something here that was translated, I'm burning, I'm on fire. I can't, that's crazy stuff, man. Let me see, which deals with the cholesis of the Asibis Suke, so hell of the ungodly soul. The soul is more grievously tormented by impiety than by good beast. Therion, it cries out, I'm burning, I'm in hell. So the understanding of sorrow in the Old Testament. So we can look into all these words for sorrow in the Old Testament. Let me get this one out of here. I can see what I'm looking at. Hopefully, there we go. Sorrow in the Old Testament. There's so many words. Like I said, I didn't know where to go with this. There was just so much. But I wanted to read that. That was a good read for me, man. I spent a lot of time just translating this whole thing. So Lupe, let me see if I got these words here. 3077, 7108. Lupe in the Septuagint is not accepted or even the preferred rendering of any one Hebrew word. It is used for many words indicating pain, sorrow, annoyance, etc. So we'd have to look up all of these words for pain, sorrow, annoyance, and I got some numbers here that 6687. Oh, 6687. This is what? No. I got a little dyslexic on that. I'll have to see what this is. This is Atsab. 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 If you'll excuse me. Ayin Sab. Why? How did I have this Atsab? How I got 6687 out of that, I don't know. It's Ayin. Oh, Ayin. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got that wrong number. I got the Ayin here. Ayin. Now it makes sense why it's 66. Ayin. So it's 66 something. Let me get down here. There's not even a 66. So it's something 87, 60 something 87. Let me go there. 60. Here it is. Here we go. 6087. I can't read my own writing. Or actually, I wrote a 66. So it's 6087. Atsab. Go back to this here. 6087. 87. Grieved. Here we go with this. This is grieved. 1666 is the TWOT. So it's grieved, displeased, hurt, made sorry. So I went from mourn to being sorry and grieved and hurt and things like that. So I'm doing all these negative words for the study, and it kind of like makes me feel better than talking about what we should be talking about, joy and being saved and happy and God loves you. So we're talking about all the pain and suffering that we have to go through. And grieved. It repented the Lord that he made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. Atsab. And there's a few other words connected. As you can see, you got Eseb, Oseb, Aseb, Asebet, Isaban, and Measabeah, terror, sorrow, labor. The root Asab relates to physical pain as well as to emotional sorrow. Words similar in the Hebrew are hil, we'll look at that if we get a chance, and hol, to ride, and hara, to be hot with anger, yaga, to grieve, la'ah, to become tired, weary, ka'as, to be irritated and angry, marah, to be bitter. The word at the Mara is the word bitter, at the waters of Marah, and also Mary means bitter, Marah. Despairing, kut, kus. So all of these are all synonymous words for this Atzah. Yea, he turned back and tempted God and limited the Holy One of Israel. I don't know what that one's. It's a trouble. Tempted. They probably got the wrong verse here. But Psalms 78, 41. 78:40. There we go. 78:40. How oft did they provoke him in the wilderness and grieve him in the desert? Atsab. So if you got your TWOT book, go to that page, 1666, and make the correction. This is what I always do. I make the correction right in the book. Sometimes the book has it right, but the laptop has it wrong. 1666. 1666. They had it wrong in the book too. All right, so we'll cross it out and put 78:40. 78:40. It's done. It would be in the back of my head if I didn't do that, so I had to do it. So the verb Asab, as a term of physical and mental discomfort, is used in a variety of contexts. The kal, which is the most used form of the verb, is found 3 times in the Old Testament. The prophet historian of 1 Kings comments wryly concerning Adonijah that his father had never crossed him at any time by inquiring into his activities, a shameful lack of parental interest and discipline. In another passage, Israel is depicted as a forsaken wife who is grieved in spirit. Isaiah 54:6, the Lord hath called thee as a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, and a wife of youth when thou wast refused, saith thy God. The third instance of the kal is in 1 Chronicles 4:10, where the translation hurt serves as a pun on the name Jabez. 1 Chronicles 4:10. 1 Chronicles 4:10, Jabez. Let me see right here. Jabez. Sorrow. Look at that. I mean, sorrow. It's a pun on his name, actually. All right. So Jabez called on the Lord King of Israel, saying, "Oh, that thou would bless me indeed, and enlarge my coast, and that thine hand might be with me, and that thou wouldst keep me from evil, that it may not grieve me, even though my name is that." So, physical pain. It speaks of David's wrestling, enemies wrestling his words. Sorrow, wicked way in me. All right. Just one of the words. I mean, there's so many. We can't get into all of them. Atsab, and there's another one. Thus we find lupe 4 times for yagon. So we'll look up another one real quick. Yagon is 3015. Oh, 3015. Yagon. Sorrow. Yagon comes from 3013, which is yaga. Wow, a lot of verses here. Afflict, grieve, cause pain, suffering, sorrow, anguish. TWOT 839. We get a chance to read this. We can, if it's anything good in here. There's 14 verses. The primary meaning is mental troubling resulting from affliction. Yaga stresses mental sorrow and affliction. Ka'ab accentuates the pain. Ana emphasizes humbling. So those are synonymous words with this. In Lamentations, the root describes Jerusalem's grief resulting from God's judgment in 586 BC. We know all about this. After Jeremiah was left in Jerusalem, he wrote Lamentations, and that's what this is all about. Jeremiah, and then I don't see any verses in Lamentations here, but it's probably the noun. Hold on, Lamentations. Though you cause grief, 3013. That's the verb. That's 3013. Let me put it up here. 3013. 3013. Come on. Actually, let me leave it here like this. But though he caused grief, yet will he have compassion according to the multitude of his mercies. So it's going to come. And I think sometimes they use that word compassion in the Greek as parakletes. You might throw that in the Septuagint, and I'm almost positive it'll come back as paraklete, the paraclete. He will have compassion according to the multitude of his mercies, for he does not afflict willingly nor grieve the children of men. So here we go again with sorrow, and after the sorrow, he's going to help us out. And then, therefore, the redeemed of the Lord shall return and come with singing unto Zion, and everlasting joy shall be upon their head. They shall obtain gladness and joy, and sorrow and mourning shall flee away. So that's something to look forward to here. But I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee, which have said to thy soul, bow down, that we may go over. And thou hast laid thy body on the ground, and as the street to them that went over. So there will be a time when this sorrow will be turned to joy. Isaiah 35:10. Let me read that. And the ransomed of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with songs and everlasting joy upon their heads, and shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow of sighing, and sighing shall flee. So these we're going to get this joy, simcha, joy and gladness, songs upon their heads. That's good. So grief and sorrow is employed to portray both individual sorrow experienced in times of difficulty, David when pursued by his enemies, and national grief. Grievous judgment demonstrates God's power. So he does it all. Again, they are diminished and brought low through oppression, affliction, and sorrow. And God brings it all. Oppression, otzer, oppression. He's going to shut them up, to restrain. Okay. Affliction, ra'ah, that's evil, wickedness. Ra'ah and sorrow is this what we're looking at, yagon. Okay, oops. What happened here? There we go. I was on the end of the page here. Little scattered tonight. Like I said, I got so much here to read. I just can't read it all to you, man. I must have read 20 books over here, reading all of this stuff. Grief, sorrow, heaviness. The noun stresses the emotional sadness of grief. Such grief comes to a foolish son's parents and to the perverse man's heart. Only God's words bring relief from this state of mind. Psalms 119:28. My soul melteth for heaviness. Strengthen thou me according to thy word. Heaviness. That's another word. 84:24. Let me see if I can put this here. 84:24. Soul melted for heaviness. Proverbs of Solomon, a wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish son is heaviness of his mother. Even in laughter, the heart is sorrowful. And the end of that mirth is heaviness. There you go with what we were just talking about, the hedone and the lupe. It's right in this verse right here, Proverbs 14:13. So the hedone, right? Even in hedone, the heart is lupe, we could say. And the end of hedone is lupe. Same thing. So that's a good word. So the laughter, I forget what the word laughter is in the Greek. It's gumne or something like that. The heart is sorrowful, and that's ka'ab. There's another one, ka'ab. There's so much to look at, man. I got this written down too, 35:10. Ka'ab. So, you might want to write it down. Ka'ab, TWOT 940. But it's up there. If you ever look at the recording, you can always copy it. 35:10. And the end of the mirth, simcha, is heaviness. He that begetteth a fool doeth it to his sorrow, and the father of a fool hath no joy. I am very joyous. My son is not a fool. Let's see. And that's that. And then back to this lupe here. And also, there are other Greek words which are also used for these terms. Thus, we find lupe 4 times for this 3015, in which is 8 times is rendered painful. Lupe and lupien occur twice each for I think we looked at that, which is normally translated kakos. Kakos means evil, and derivatives. Also, paneros, that's evil, and derivatives. Lupien is also used once for Abal, 056. This is on my list too, 056. And that's TWOT6, I think. 056, yeah, TWOT6. Abal, lots of good stuff in there. Jacob rent his clothes, but sackcloth. So here we got the sackcloth. We didn't really get into sackcloth too much last week. We touched on it, but we saw that the Greek word for that is the sakos. So the Greek word is actually a Hebrew word, and they just made it, they Hellenized it. So it's sak in the Hebrew and sakos in the Greek, and it means the same thing, sackcloth. And it's usually a dark garment. That's why we get into the word black, and that's why everybody wears black when they go to funerals and things like that. Yeah. So this lament, TWOT6, it's on my list. Mourn, lament. Abal describes mourning rites for the dead. I don't get into that too much, though. The land mourneth, mourning for the dead. You got professional decease of important leaders. You got professional mournings, feign oneself a mourner. You got Matthew 11:7. Oh yeah, we have piped unto you, and you have not danced. We have mourned unto you, and you have not lamented. So these are the professionals that run around singing and dancing at funerals, and people just aren't listening to them. We have piped. Auleo, play on the flute. The pipe. Was playing music at funerals, and we have danced. Or keomai. And we have mourned. So here's another word we're going to look at. Thraneo. It's probably next on my list. Thraneo is TDNT3 148. It comes from, that's the verb, and the verb usually comes from the noun usually comes from the verb, but this noun, the noun comes from the verb. Lamentation, and that's the one that I was looking at in, I think it's Matthew, what was it, Matthew 2:8. Let me see, Matthew 2:8. The 2:18. In Ramah, there was a voice heard, lamentation, thranos, and weeping. Another word, cloth. Let me put it up here. Klauthmos. That's on my list. It's in the same book, 3 and 725. Weeping, wailing, and comes from 2799, which is kleo, which means to weep, and that's what we'll look at in 3:722. And then the other word here is sweeping, laying, great mourning. So this is the mourning. This is odermos, or outermos. Another one, Theological Dictionary 5116. Mourning, wailing, lamentation. And you can see all the synonyms here. Look at this. I have all of these on the list. 214, 1145, 2354, 2799, 3602, and 4727. I just put it up there real quick, so if you're watching the recording, you can just copy it. And we'll get into them eventually. A great mourning. Rachel, what? She's weeping. Cleo, she's weeping for her children. Why? And would not be comforted because they are not. So this is when, what's his name? Herod went around killing all of the children in Bethlehem, 2 years old and under, because he was trying to, kill the seed royal, actually, was what he's doing. There's 4 instances in the Bible where the seed royal almost got wiped out, but of course we know that couldn't happen. and it was down to like one person several times. I got them written somewhere. Let me see. I want to just lay this on you. I got it written in the Bible here somewhere. I know there's, I should have them on the top of my head. But I know this is one time. And also, what's her name? Athaliah, when she tried to kill everybody. And they saved Josiah. It was down to one person. The seed royal would have been wiped out if he got killed. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Let me just put this up there real fast. I probably gave it to these once before, but every time I run into this, I want to bring it out. June 38, and the big stuff from the earliest. It would be Genesis 38. What was the one time when it almost got wiped out? 38, when Judah wouldn't let the daughter come in. Where is it? Tamar, that's her name. Remain a widow at the father's house until Shelah be grown. For he said, let's prevent you. He died also. So she promised him to. He promised her to Er and Onan, and they both died. And like he was going to give her to the other guy. What's his name again? Shelah. But Judah said, you know what? I don't want my son to die, so I'm just going to let her hang out in the cold there. But she knew, she took it upon herself to go he went to Timnath to shear the sheep. And somebody told Tamar, says, behold, your father-in-law, he goes to shear the sheep. And so she put off her widow's garments from her, and she covered herself with a veil, and she wrapped herself, and she sat in an open place, which is, by the way, so she may believe she was a harlot, and what happens? Judah, he sees her, he gets into his head on and he goes in unto her, and she becomes pregnant. So without him doing that, the seed royal would have been wiped out. So that's the big one right there. And then Pharaoh, of course, in Exodus 1:6. So if she doesn't do that, the seed royal is wiped out. 1:6. 1:16, excuse me, 1:16. And when the midwives, and the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him. And if it be a daughter, then she shall live. So Pharaoh's trying to wipe out the seed royal. I mean, he probably didn't know what he was doing, but he could have wiped out the seed royal there. Just randomly killing Jewish kids, man, And they did a good job, those two midwives. And of course, Athaliah, I told you that already. 2 Kings 11, she almost killed 2 Kings 11. I don't know exactly what verse it is here. Right there. But you know the story. 7-year-old rejoiced when it began to rain. What did I say? I said the wrong name before, right? Rejoice. What the name is it? Athaliah. Yeah, I went too far. Oh yeah. Here we go. And when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the seed royal. Or so she thought. But there was one son that they kept, and they hid him. Where did they hide him? Right under her nose. in the bedchamber, right where she was hanging out. He was 6 years old. And then when he was 8 years old, they took him out and they said, God save the king. And she said, what? Treachery, treachery, or treason, whatever she said. And they killed her. So that was the third time. And of course, Herod in Matthew 2. So those are the 4 times where the seed royal almost could have got wiped out, but it didn't, of course. We know that couldn't happen. So I like to bring that out every time it pops into my head. And where were we here with this? That 056, right? This is Abel. Abel. And the one in the Old Testament, this is like, let me see, this is Jeremiah, yes. Jeremiah 31:15. Thus saith the Lord, a voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping. Rahel, weeping for her children, refused to be comforted for her children because they were not. And why was she in Bethlehem? Because that's where she died. She died giving birth to Benjamin, and they buried her in Bethlehem. So she was the favored wife of Jacob, but Leah is the one that's buried with her, with him in the cave at Machpelah, along with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. So Leah is the one that got in there, not Rachel, the beloved. She was actually a spoiled brat, but that's a story for another day. But she was still blessed of the Lord, and you can still be a spoiled brat and be blessed in the Lord. Okay, tearing of one's flesh for the dead. Yeah, we don't do that. We don't cut ourselves. We don't tear ourselves for the dead. Mourning, it might last 7 days or 70 or 30. From the first incident arose the place name Abel Mizraim. Abel the morning, Mizraim of Egypt. Okay. TDNT, okay. So that was this TDNT 6, 6. And it's 30 some odd verses here talking about mourning. All right. And then what was the other word I had here? I really didn't. Yeah, Lupe. And there's a couple of different verses with Alupe. What is it? Whoops, let me close this. Make it easy for me to see there. Alupe 3076. I had them here somewhere, but let me, oh God, help me with this. All right, look at these real quick. This 253, this is the opposite, I think. Yeah, less sorrowful. Philippians 2:28. I sent him therefore the more carefully, that when you see him, you may rejoice, that I may be the less sorrowful. And that is lupoteros. So it's lupo or lupe with the alpha in front of it, and it's less sorrowful, free from grief and pain. And that's Paul talking. And then 4036 is another one. 4036. Do I have the right purchase? Nope, I got the wrong number here. The verse is Luke 18. Luke 18. 23. I think. Yes. I got to stop with this dyslexia here. 4036. That's right. But I said 4036, but I punched up something else. See? Sorry. And this would be, where am I? 4036. Perilupos. Exceeding sorrow. Exceeding sorrow unto death, exceeding sorrow, exceeding sorrowful, very sorrowful, very sorrowful. So it's exceeding perilopos. And then the last one is 48:18. 48:18. And that's grieved, being grieved. Right. And when he looked around about on them with anger being grieved for the hardness of their hearts, he saith unto the man, stretch forth thy hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole as the other. Sul lupeo comes from soon or with. So he's be grieved with oneself, much grieved. So that was, there's still more on this lupe, but I can't read it all. I want to get into this other word here is 30, 76, 77. This is the one we were doing here, right? Yeah, that's the one we were doing, lupe. And as you can see, there's 14 verses for that, and there's 21 verses for that. I'm going to close this out. And we did the 6 already. And there's a 15:30, which is mourn and lament. That's safad. Let me see if I want to get into this right now. Beat the breast as a sign of wailing. By far the most of the references in which this root and its derivatives are found deal with the mourning rites at someone's death. All right. Mourning for the dead. The practice of mourning for the departed was seized upon by the prophets to warn of a coming national death in accordance with the just judgment of God. Isaiah summons the woman of Judah to mourn in the light of the coming judgment. Jeremiah calls Jerusalem to repentance and mourning in the face of Assyrian invasion, right before the Babylonians come in. And Joel calls on the mourning priests to lead the people in a time of heartfelt national repentance and sorrow for their sins, since the locust plague was but a harbinger of a worse judgment to come. And Micah goes wailing and mourning for Judah. A whole genre of prophetic lamentation grew up, which not only stressed the need of national repentance for sin and the certainty of coming judgment, but promised ultimate deliverance at the coming of Messiah. So you got all this mourning and grieving and calls to repentance and put on sackcloth and ashes, but this is the promised ultimate deliverance at the coming of Messiah. In Zechariah 12, 10 and 11, and I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. And you got the words in here, pierced me, and they shall mourn. 45:53. Misped, mourning, wailing, lamentation. That's the masculine noun, and the verb is safad. That's what we're looking at here, TWOT 15:30. As one mourneth for his own son. In that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem, as the mourning of Harar Rimon in the valley of Megiddo. And we know about that, the valley of Megiddo. That's the Armageddon mourning. Hadod Rimon, place of the valley of Megiddo, where there had been a great mourning. And there was a lot of people that died there, and a lot of people will die there. And Megiddo, we looked at all of these already. Megiddo, I don't think I have this up here. Megiddo, well, we saw it already. We know what it is. The Valley of Jezreel, Jehoshaphat, Esdraelon, Hadad Rimon, Armageddon. All of these are the same place in Israel. I like to say it's on Route 66 in Israel, and it is. You see, mourning. When in a far deeper sense, the believer will re-echo the psalmist's cry in Psalm 30, O Lord, hear, O Lord, and have mercy on me. Lord, be thou my helper. Thou hast turned for me my mourning into dancing, and thou hast put off my sackcloth and girded me with gladness. So there you go with the, so you know, the dancing could turn to mourning and the mourning could turn to dancing. So you got the two juxtapositions here of the misped or the sefed and the happiness and the makol and the dancing. And of course the sackcloth we looked at. And there's the juxtapositions of the two things there. And then this to be dark, to mourn, kadar. Malachi 3:14 and the RSV translate this verb similarly, except in Jeremiah 14:12. Let me get this here. Malachi, you have said it is vain to serve God, and what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance and that we have walked mournfully before the Lord of hosts? What profit is it that we have walked Kedorenith, mournfully is one time in the Bible. And this is kadar, which means to mourn or black and dark. So we're going back to last week, starting with the darkness and the blackness and the mourning and the sackcloth. And this is the 1989. And that we have walked mournfully before the Lord of hosts. Sabah, Lord of hosts. Except in Jeremiah 14:2 and Job 30:28. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. Mourneth. There's the 056, the one we just looked at. The Abal languish, and they are black. So this is kadar, also means black, mourn, black, blackish, onto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem. I should write this down. I might have it already. 682. It sounds familiar. Crying. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got that somewhere for our study. I went mourning without the sun. I stood up and I cried in the congregation. Shavah. I'm going to write that down. 7768. All right. All right. So in both cases, the concept supports the RSV. This rote denotes blackness, the absence of light. Jeremiah 4:28. For this shall the earth mourn. The earth mourn. That's the Abal. And the heavens above be black. Kadar. But because I have spoken and I have purposed and will not repent and will neither turn back. So this repent here, that's not him, repenting because he did something he shouldn't have done. And the shub here, this is the one that Jeremiah uses. Turn thou me and I shall be turned. That's repentance there. All right. So as well as the preparations surrounding mourning rites, it occurs 19 times, and you got all the synonymous words here. The root is used in context of judgment, where the heavens and the heavenly bodies are to be blackened. There is clearly an overtone of mourning in such contexts. Hence, the great and terrible day of the Lord is associated with mourning by the heavenly bodies. And that's Joel 2:10. The earth shall quake before them, the heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. So what does that mean? There's no truth. The sun goes dark, there's no truth. And that makes the moon blood, the red blood. And what are the stars? The stars, we know that these are the angels that give the trumpets. And if they withdraw their shining, they're not speaking. So there's no truths being spoken. That's what this is talking about. The earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble. The sun and the moon shall be dark. The stars, no truth. Joel 2:10. This day in turn is directly connected with the eschaton. That's the last days, as in the blackening of the heavenly bodies. I mean, you see this again in 3:15. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. No truth. Darkness, that's what we mean by darkness. There's no truth. And then we talked about the darkness, the mistness, the blackness forever. That's hell. So there's no light in hell. You might be able to see, but there's no light. You understand? We know that the brightness and darkness is just good and evil. Let me see. TDNT7, what's that? Darkness denotes the whole range of what is harmful or evil. There you go. Our root connects darkness and sorrow, a connection not limited to the ancient Near East. Conzelman says of this passage, here it is no longer meant figuratively, but literally. So there's for the eschatological darkening, we look at Isaiah 13:10. Same thing that Joel says in 2:30 and 31. The sun dark, the moon blood, fire, pillars of smoke, stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give the light. Sun shall be darkened, and it's going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. The moon has no light. The moon gets its light from the sun. It's just reflecting the sun. We've seen all of these. I think we looked at these one other time. Yes, son, it's the same verse, Acts 2:20, and of course Zephaniah 1:15. It's a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. And I got that on my list for clouds, thick darkness, and it's a bunch of words for hide, secret, covert, cloud, darkness, cover with the cloud, cloudy. All of those words will go together, and we'll do a little study on that sometime later. And Revelation 6:12. And the six seals opened, and there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. So there's no light there. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? And in 8:12, the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, the third part of the moon, third part of the stars, third part of them was darkened. So that's the trumpets, I believe. I get them mixed up with the trumpets and the seals. Yeah, that's the trumpets. The seals do a quarter of the earth, and the trumpets do a third of the earth. And the vials destroy everything. But in where was I? But in spite of its threatening aspect, darkness is only a penultimate entity with God. I looked that up. I forgot what it means. I think we talked about this last week. In the midst of oppression, David confesses that he is mourning. In other words, that he, in an objective, noticeable sense, he was dirty, unattended, and in mourning attire. Jeremiah goes to such lengths of mourning over his people in view of the encroaching judgment. For the hurt of the daughters of my people am I hurt. I am black. Astonishment has taken hold on me. Job 5:11. To set up on high those that be low, and to those which mourn may be exalted to safety. So there's this Kedar, and this last one here in the Old Testament. There's more, but I just pulled these few out, and there's nothing here. Mourning, and the word is sorrow. 592, is it? Yes, sorrow. Aniya comes from 578, which is ana, lament, mourn, to mourn. And there's the verb and the feminine noun. I will distress Ariel, and that's another word for Israel. Ariel, symbolical name for Jerusalem, signifying Lion of God. Ariel. Ariel is Lion of God, Lioness of God. It's actually Lion of God. It could be female. Much heaviness and sorrow. Heaviness, Taniya. That's the same thing. Okay. And sorrow is same. Look at that, same thing. So you got heaviness, 83, 86, and sorrow, 592. Throw these up here, 592. So we can take this out of here. It's both of the words are in both of the verses. There you go. You got the verb and the noun. There we go. So what else are we looking at here? 3996. We looked at this already. This is the pentheo. Oh man, don't get me started on this. Man. Yeah, I can't start on this now. It's too late for that. There's a bunch of stuff here, and I'm breaking the backbone of my books because they're all open to these pages. And we'll get into it. Got a lot to do here. And it's one word at a time, one verse at a time. And we're never going to get it. So just thank you, God. Time goes so fast. We love you. Give you all the praise and glory. Just thank you, man. I don't know what else to say. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen. Whew. So, stop recording. Thank you, God.